Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. The Pasha needs to be, yeah.
Hare Krishna. Welcome to all our dear devotees and friends, all our uncles, aunties, and all our kids who are attending this series, which is on the overview of Bhagavad Gita, named as Gita Essence. And today we are on the third day of our series, where Madan Sundar Prabhuji are going to discuss chapter 3 of Gita Essence series. So over to you, Madan Sundar Das Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Poll is ready? Yes. Thank you. Hare Krishna. So we welcome everyone for our Gita Essence program, the third day. So we begin with the prayer. So those of you who know this prayer can recite along, while others can close their eyes, fold their hands, and take a deep breath. ॐ ज्ञानतिमिरन्दस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनाशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषशून्यवादी पाश्चात्य जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. So thank you all for joining us. We'll begin our session for today. We are on the overview of Bhagavad Gita based on the teachings of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. So before we get into the chapter 3, let's do a very quick and a short recap of what we saw in chapter 2. In chapter 2, we saw that how Lord Shri Krishna revealed the fundamental wisdom or the fundamental knowledge of spiritual life, and which is that we are not the body but a spirit soul. So question arises, if I am a spirit soul, then how does my tomorrow looks different than today? Therefore, Krishna explained the practical knowledge of the practical application of this knowledge, the knowledge of Atma, wherein Lord Shri Krishna explains about Karma Yoga or Buddhi Yoga. So, to have an understanding of how do we realize we're not the body but spirit soul, Lord Shri Krishna introduced the concept of yoga. And after that, Arjuna inquired from Krishna, what are the symptoms of those who have perfected the yoga, who have lived their life by the principles of yoga? And the last section of discussion was of Atmaram. In one sense, if you see, Bhagavad Gita is over because Arjuna had a doubt. Arjuna had 5 arguments, and we saw yesterday Lord Shri Krishna refuted all the 5 arguments in the chapter 2 itself. And in the end, Lord Shri Krishna said, Arjuna, you should work. You should perform your dharma. Well, you're worried about that what's going to happen. You will incur sin and all that. Well, you perform your action as a service unto me, then you'll be free from any kind of sinful activities. But thank God, Arjuna was not yet convinced, and therefore Arjuna inquires from Krishna, with which chapter 3 begins. Arjuna is confused. He's still not very clear or convinced, I should rather say, that he should fight. Arjuna is still attached to his understanding, wherein he agreed whatever Krishna has said, but he's still attached to his idea of going to the forest. How many times we have experienced when we decide our mind for something, and when we are told not to do it, it becomes very difficult not to do it. We still stay glued to our idea of how we should live our life. Something like that what happened with Arjuna. Therefore, Arjuna asked a question at the beginning of chapter 3, my dear Lord, am I supposed to renounce? Am I supposed to work? And that's how chapter 3 begins. Therefore, chapter 3 is titled as Karma Yoga, the yoga of action. Herein, Lord Shri Krishna is going to explain the technique of achieving self-realization and spiritual connection with the absolute truth, with the Supreme Personality of Godhead through the act of work, through work, in other words. To help us understand this chapter 3, once again, we'll define an acronym which subdivides this chapter in a way that will help us remember the high-level subject matters detailed or described in chapter 3. So the acronym for chapter 3 is TREE, where T stands for Tyaga. We'll look at the details of each of this letter as we proceed. Tyaga, where T stands for Tyaga or renunciation. Lord, in this particular section, clarifies what is real renunciation. In general, a lot of people anyways have a lot of misunderstanding about what renunciation is. In fact, many people think if a young boy or a young girl, they study Bhagavad Gita, then they may renounce, they may give up on their worldly duties, and they'll become sannyasi or sannyasinis. Have you heard like this from your parents? Beta, बेटी, अभी थोड़ी ना उम्र है तुम्हारी ये सब करने की. जब रिटायर हो जाओगे तब भगवद गीता पढ़ना. ठीक है भाई, तब पढ़ेंगे. पहले ये बताओ, आप पढ़ रहे हो 60 साल की उम्र के बाद? खुद ने तो पढ़ा नहीं, बच्चों को सलाह दी जाती है. I'm sorry, I forgot this is an English class, but I didn't know how to say it in English because it sounds more better in Hindi. Just a jokes apart. So the point is, a lot of people have misunderstanding. They think, oh, if you study Bhagavad Gita or if we're taught Bhagavad Gita to our kids, they'll give up on everything. But Lord Shri Krishna explains that the science of Bhagavad Gita is not about leaving, but is about living our life. So what is renunciation? Or in other words, let's begin with the question where Arjuna asked, my dear Lord, should I renounce or should I work? So as we said, Bhagavad Gita is not about leaving, but Bhagavad Gita is about living. The message of Bhagavad Gita is about living responsibly and performing one's duties with detachment, which Krishna explains. We're going to take a look at it in a short while. is a means to lead a happy life. Therefore, in this chapter, Lord Shri Krishna teaches us the art of living. Herein, Lord Shri Krishna offers profound insights on how to properly utilize God-given gifts, which means the body, the time, the intelligence, in such a way that we could live a progressive life and a happy life. So therefore, in this section, Lord Shri Krishna tells Arjuna, hey Arjuna, one should not artificially try to give up one's occupation or duties, because we all are conditioned by our psychophysical nature. We all have our own set of desires, and desires cannot be given up at any point of time. Our desires can undergo frustration, and whenever our desires are frustrated, and if they're frustrated for a long period of time, suddenly a person thinks of renouncing everything. But that is not a permanent state of renunciation, because the foundation of this spirit of renunciation is frustration. And when tomorrow the situation would change around us, and when we would have an opportunity to fulfill our desire, then the person will forget renunciation. Therefore, Krishna tells Arjuna, Arjuna, unless one is qualified and is purified of one's desires to enjoy, control, and be proprietor, until then one should not take the path of external renunciation. Don't be a pretender. Do not assume if you acquire a red cloth or the saffron cloth is what it means to be tyagi. In fact, you don't even have to acquire a saffron cloth. There is a surname called as tyagi, isn't it? So somebody has a surname Tyagi doesn't mean he's a big Tyagi. You know, we have surnames like Chaturvedi, Trivedi, Dvivedi. Chaturvedi is a designation given to one who have read all the 4 Vedas. So because somebody has got a name Chaturvedi does not mean he is definitely learned. That's the point. So Krishna says, this is a very important verse, 3rd chapter, verse number 6. Karamendriyani samyamya ya aste manasa smaran Indriyarthan vimudhatma mityachara sa uchyate. Karamendriya samyamya. It is possible that one person is externally trying to control his senses. However, ya aste manasa smaran, but in his mind he is doing smaran of what? A sense objects. Indriyarthan vimudhatma. In other words, such a person is thinking about sense objects, and such a man bewilders himself, or in other words, he is a fool. Vimudhatma mithyachara sauchate, and such a person is said to be pretender, who is externally trying to practice a life of a renunciation, but within his mind he is contemplating to enjoy this world. So therefore Krishna says, my dear Arjuna, there is no point on artificially accepting the dress of a renunciation, because the definition of renunciation is not based on what dress you wear, what name you keep. The renunciation has a different meaning. Renunciation is a renunciation of the spirit to enjoy, the desire to enjoy separately than the Lord, enjoy independently. The renunciation is of the desire, is renunciation of the selfish desires. And therefore, Lord Shri Krishna, few verses ahead, gives the definition of what renunciation is. Lord Krishna herein explains that renunciation does not mean one has to abandon one's worldly duties. In fact, true renunciation is to give up the mentality to enjoy the fruits of one's actions. And that is what true renunciation. What is a renunciation? To give up the desire to enjoy the results of one's action. So herein Lord Shri Krishna describes Karma Yoga, very beautiful shloka. Krishna says, 3rd chapter, verse number 9, Yagna arthat karmano nyatra loko yam karma bandhanaha. Yagna arthat means yagna, which means Vishnu, Yagyapati. Yagna arthat karmano anyatra. If somebody performs karmana, actions, for other than yagna, for other than the pleasure of Vishnu, such an action results in the bondage of a living entity with this world. Lokoyam karmana bandhana. Tadartham, however, if somebody performs action for me, karma kanteya, mukta sangha samachara, such a person gets liberated or freed from the bondage of or to this world. So performing one's duty in a spirit of detachment from the results of one's action, which could be money, which could be one's knowledge, which could be one's name, fame, recognition, whatnot. When person performs action, performs his activities, but utilizes the results of his work in the service of the Lord, then it is called as karma yoga. Otherwise, it is called as karma. Whenever the word yoga is used, it is always in connection with the Lord. It is always in service to the Lord. If it is not in the service of the Lord, it is not karma yoga, it is plain karma. So here in Krishna explains, if one lives his life in this manner, then this is called as real renunciation, and such a person can attain to self-realization and ultimately to love of Godhead. In essence, our work becomes yoga. We don't have to go anywhere, we don't have to leave anything to practice yoga. Our work itself becomes yoga when one engages in this process, which is described here in this verse, wherein one performs in duties, prescribed duties, and utilizes the result in the service of the Lord. To conclude, the subject matter of Karma Yoga can be summed up in two words. First, detached, and second, dutiful. Lord Shri Krishna requests Arjuna, you should perform duties. In what sense? In detached manner. Detached from what? Not from the work. Work should be done dutifully, but detached from the results of the work, wherein you utilize the results in the service of the Lord. That's how the work becomes yoga or karma yoga. Arjun was happy. Arjun pondered on it. And when he reflected on what Lord Shri Krishna said, Arjuna thought within himself. And he thought, my dear Lord, what about those who cannot perform karma yoga? How can they advance in their spiritual life? In other words, what about those people who cannot take to the practice of karma yoga? What is the hope for them to advance in the spiritual life? Because you say karma yoga is essential to progress in spiritual life. What hope do we have for them? So I would request our host, there are polls which are created for this. If you can go and show the first poll.
Ji Prabhuji.
We can have it. And the poll is straightforward. And the poll is, to work without selfish motivation is undoubtedly an advanced stage. Yes or no? Are you able to play out the poll?
Yes,
Yes.
Prabhuji.
So here's the first question, just to interact and see how many of you agree to work without selfish motivation, not to be attached to the results, is actually a very advanced stage. It's difficult for a common man to practice. Yes or no? I guess I see only one no here. Probably that must be from Sai Saswat, who has not yet started to work. No problem, Sai. When you begin to work, you will understand the dilemma of the working man or a woman, what they have to undergo. All right. So I guess we have enough results, Madhya Pasha. We can move forward. So to give an answer to this, I believe you all can see the results. 96% people agree that yes, is impossible. It's very, very difficult. So we should thank Arjuna for asking this question on behalf of all of us. What is the hope for us? And herein Lord Shri Krishna speaks about the rungs on the yoga ladder. Can we stop showing the results now? Yeah. So rungs on the yoga ladder. Now Lord Shri Krishna talks about, how such a person who is attached to the results can make progress. So Krishna explains what is called as yoga ladder, wherein there are different stages of yoga practices. But somebody can come to the process of yoga. Krishna defines a preliminary stage to it, what is called as karma kanda. So this karma kanda, what is called as karma kanda, is a stage where a person can perform his actions and enjoy the results of his actions. But if he performs or if he lives his life according to the Vedic injunctions within the Vedic paradigm, and he fulfills his desires for sense gratification within a regulated manner, then he's said to be practicing karma kanda. Then for pious action, he gets pious results, and gradually he becomes purified And this is a stage of what we call as Purushartha, Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. Through the practice of dharma, which means through the practice of following the instruction of Vedic scriptures, one acquires artha, and from that artha, one gets the opportunity to fulfill one's kama, which means material desires. And then, being frustrated by repeatedly attempting to fulfill one's desire, ultimately, everyone comes to an understanding desires can never be fulfilled. How much ever we try, it is never fulfilled. Finally, such a person moves forward and then he thinks of linking one's life or activity in relation to the Lord, which brings such a person to the next stage, which is called as Sakama Karma Yoga. Actually, this is the first stepping stone of the yoga ladder. Sakama Karma Yoga is a subset of Karma Yoga. Sakama means one is attached to the actions, type of actions, and also to the results. So question comes, what is the difference between Sakam Karma Yoga and Karma Kanda then? However, at the Sakam Karma Yoga, a person utilizes the results of his work in the service of the Lord. That is called as Sakam Karma Yoga. But still is attached to the type of work and to the results. Higher than this, when a person progresses further, comes Nishkam Karma Yoga. Hare Krishna. Comes Nishkam Karma Yoga. What is Nishkam Karma Yoga? Herein the person is attached to the type of work but is free or is detached from the results. Now he utilizes the results of his work entirely in the service of the Lord, gradually being purified from Sakam, comes to Nishkam Karma Yoga, but still he still have attachment to the kind or to the type of work he wants to do. When one lives life like this for a prolonged period of time, then gradually he becomes more purified, and then he qualifies himself to the stage of Jnana Yoga. We just discussed Karma Yoga. Now let's come to Jnana Yoga. Jnana Yoga is a stage where now this person is freed from material desires. He doesn't have much hankering. He's frustrated from those things, that kind of life of fulfilling or gratifying one's senses. He has understood it. And now he's ready for the path of renunciation, external form of renunciation. So at the stage of Jnana Yoga, the person renounces his worldly duties, all his bonds, all his family relationship, work and everything. He goes to the forest with only one idea, to spend rest of his life studying scriptures so that I can understand who the Supreme Lord is and I can attain the perfection of human form of life. That is called as Jnana Yoga. Living in the forest as a renunciate, as a mendicant, and spending most of his time in studying scriptures. And when a person goes through this process for a prolonged period of time, which could be even several lifetimes, then he's further purified in his consciousness, and then comes the stage of Ashtanga Yoga. Ashtanga Yoga refers to the stage where his mind and senses have become quite purified, stable in a way. Now this person can engage himself in the act of meditation. Ashtanga, Ashta means 8, Anga. It refers to a yoga process which have 8 limbs: Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhi, which is also sometimes called as Hatha Yoga or Dhyana Yoga, which are nothing but the other name of Ashtanga Yoga. At this stage, person can go into the stage of Dharana or Dhyana, and finally Samadhi on the personality, on the Paramatma form. And finally, when he becomes fixed on this stage, then the stage of Bhakti Yoga comes, where now he is ready to fully engage himself through his prana, artha, diya, vacha in the service of the Lord. These are the different stages of yoga ladder. So I leave on to you. Absolute truth means Supreme Personality of Godhead. I just saw a question mark. So I leave on to you to decide, where are you on the yoga ladder? How many Ashtanga yogis do we have here? And how many on the stage of Karma Kanda? You don't have to give an answer, but it's for you to all think about it. So this is what Lord Shri Krishna explains to Arjuna, that somebody who cannot take to Karma Yoga can at least start from Karma Kanda, where he studies scriptures, not studies, where he follows his life according to the instruction of scriptures under the guidance of Brahmanas. That's the point. So when Arjuna heard this, he reflected on Lord's instruction and he thought to himself, my dear Lord, I have no worldly desires. I have no material aspirations. And I know I am not this body but a spirit soul. So can I retire to the forest now? It's like हिंदी में कहते हैं ना वही क्या है बांसुरी बजाते रहना. It's just like singing the same melody again and again. So Arjuna is still caught up with his own idea. And again, he brings back the same proposition. My dear Lord, I don't have any aspirations. I don't have any material desires anymore. I don't want to be the king. I don't want to be called as a brother of a king. Nothing. Can I please renounce now? He's just waiting for Krishna to say, yes, Arjuna, I agree with you. Even before Krishna would have finished the statement, Arjuna would have disappeared from the sight if that would have to happen. Arjuna was so eager to run to the forest. So then Lord Shri Krishna speaks on this subject matter, wherein Arjuna have agreed that Karma Yoga is the best practical process by which one can overcome his worldly desires and attachments. It is a gradual process and less risk of fall down as in compared to the higher rungs. And then he began to think, what about me? I don't need to practice Karma Yoga because I'm already advanced. Therefore, Lord Shri Krishna begins to speak. This is a subject matter which I'm not going to discuss now about the yajna system. These slides were meant to be hidden, but somehow they're coming. That's all right. I'll skip it. This is something we go into the details when we talk about a detailed study of Bhagavad Gita. So I'll come to the next section. Sorry for these slides. So these are verse by verse discussion. That's the point where we discuss all the details. Anyways, so then what did Krishna say when Arjuna began to think like this? Can I renounce? Krishna said, no. Arjuna, become exemplary. Here Lord Shri Krishna advises Arjuna to perform his duty for the sake of educating the masses or the common people how to live their life responsibility. And therefore Lord Shri Krishna says, the leader should set an example. Yad yadachrati shreshtas tattadevataro janah sayat pramanam kurute lokastad anuvartate. Whatever the leader does, a common man follows. And that's the whole idea. And Lord Shri Krishna says, Arjuna, even when I come to this world, although I have no desires whatsoever, yet when I come to this world, I act according to the religious principles and according to the dharma that I have chosen for myself. Krishna also performs prescribed duties, although he has no material desires. Then Arjuna began to think, my dear Lord, well, you are telling me to set an example of renunciation. You're telling me to set an example, be exemplary. Then again Arjuna goes back to the same melody and he thinks, my dear Lord, why don't I set an example of renunciation? Please, please let me go to the forest. And then Krishna, seeing what Arjuna is thinking about it, Lord Shri Krishna spoke to Arjuna further in verses 26 to 29. The picture behind me speaks in itself what Krishna is about to say. Most people are not qualified to follow the example of renunciation. If an unqualified person, that is, who has a lot of material desires, renounces worldly responsibilities, he will eventually try to fulfill it through irresponsible means. Therefore, Lord Shri Krishna says, Arjuna, you're not ready right now for externally renouncing your responsibilities. Krishna tells Arjuna, Arjuna, imagine when you are in the forest. Because you are Kshatriya, according to guna and karma, if tomorrow anyone challenges you for a fight, for a combat in the forest, if somebody comes and takes your shelter for protection from an enemy, what will you do? Because you are a Kshatriya, you will be forced to act like a Kshatriya. At that time, you will again pick up the weapon. Therefore, Arjuna, you're not yet ready because you still identify yourself with the Kshatriya. You still identify yourself with your body. So therefore, it is not prescribed for you to do so. What should you do? Krishna says, 3rd chapter, verse number 30. Again, Krishna says, perform Karma Yoga. This is Prabhupada said, this particular shloka gives the purpose of Bhagavad Gita. Mayi sarvani karmani sanyasya adhyatma chetasa nirashir nirmamo bhutva yudhyasva vikata jvara. Arjuna, whatever work you perform, my sarvani karmani sanyas adhyatma chetasa. Surrender all your works unto me with full knowledge of me, without desires for profit. Nirashir, niramamo, with no claims to proprietorship. Yudhyasva vigata jvaraha, by giving up laziness. Arjuna, arise and fight your battle or perform your duties. Finally, Lord Shri Krishna concludes this section by explaining, Arjuna, it is so important for a man to perform one's own prescribed duty than to perform another man's duty. Although you may perform the other man's duty perfectly, but still it is better for you to do your own duty. Why? Because, as it is said, the grass is always greener on the other side. We always tend to see that what others are doing are better than I. Maybe others are more happy than I. We may tend to change our sides, but that is not a permanent ground. That is not a stable ground, because that is not our inclination or our predisposition is. Therefore, Krishna says, better do your job, what you are inclined to, what you like to do, what your disposition is for. So that way you will find stability and steadiness in your life. You will not remain confused. Just like an IT employee today, he doesn't know what to do. Should I be a network engineer? Should I be an HR manager? Should I be a product engineer? Should I leave my job and become a mechanical engineer? All kinds of thought goes in the mind of an IT engineer. Now, why I'm pinpointing an IT engineer? Because I guess everyone from any branch ends up in an IT company only, regardless of you are a mechanical, chemical, civil disobedience, not the civil disobedience, but the civil engineer, whatever you are, everyone today ends up in front of a computer hired by TCS, CTS, Wipro, Infosys, and XYZ companies. So, doing your job according to your disposition brings steadiness. Health and social organization, and Krishna says finally, you are self inspired to do so. Nobody has to push you to do the job or to the work. So, after hearing this most practical and logical process of Karma Yoga, Arjuna had a big smile on his face. However, the smile disappeared within the fraction of a second. Arjuna, with an anxiety on his face, began to ponder, my dear Lord, I entirely agree with what you say. I am convinced that I should do my duty, but it is seen, or the experience of life teaches us, although we make a determination to do certain tasks, however, after a certain period of time, we lose on our determination. Our determination does not remain steady, and we become again, unsteady. Should we do it or not? Here we have a poll for all of you. How many of you have experienced that we get inspired by wisdom, but then we fail to put into practice for long? When we hear something, some wisdom, we feel very inspired and encouraged. I require the host to go ahead and show the second poll. We become inspired for it, but we fail to execute on that wisdom for long. Is that poll shown right now? Okay, it's coming. Yeah. So, have you experienced that we get inspired by wisdom, but we fail to put it into practice for long? Yes or no? How many of you have taken New Year resolutions and even before the end of 24 hours have already broken the resolution more than 365 times? If not 365 times, at least broken once or twice. And I consider this particular discussion, which is about to happen, to be very, very important. So it is almost 100% strike rate. I guess again it is Sai Sato who's playing out a game with me today by saying, the counter answer. So no. Okay, all right. So let's see what Arjuna says here in 3rd chapter, 36th verse. Arjuna says, even though I know the best course of action, but what is it that impels me time and again to act improperly and against my good intelligence? Athakena prayuktamyam papam charati purushaha. I know what is best for me, I know what is right, but still I am pushed to do something against my will, for which I have no option left but to regret later on. Why did I do it? And this brings us to the last section of chapter 3, where E stands for enemy of the soul. During our stay in this world, or during our stay in this world, sometime or some way, we all develop some animosity or enemy with, we develop some kind of animosity with people at certain stage of life. For example, imagine you're standing at a ticket counter of a railway station for buying a ticket. I know this would have been probably a decade ago, but imagine a decade ago when you would have done that. That is a one place definitely meant for conflict. Little push on the ticket counter, people become so angry and so upset. And for a time being, somebody would have considered you as an enemy, but as soon as he or she gets a ticket and walks away from the train station, the person forgets, isn't it? The enemy is there, but it's a short lived enemy. However, Lord Shri Krishna is going to talk about something called as enemy of the soul, which means Krishna is going to talk to us or introduce to us about an enemy who continues to remain our enemy life after life. जीवन के साथ जीवन के बाद. ये LIC का एडवर्टीजमेंट नहीं है, ये एनिमी ऑफ द सोल का एडवर्टीजमेंट है, जिसके बारे में भगवान श्री कृष्ण आगे बताने जाने वाले हैं. To paraphrase the third chapter 36 verse again, to make it more relevant and applicable to us, let's consider a case of a smoke addict. A smoke addict or a smoker knows the dangers of smoking to his health. He's been diagnosed by the doctor. He has decided not to smoke again, but still he smokes and then regrets. What power forces him to do so, although he does not want to do it? Are you all able to relate to this? Yes or no? How many of you have experienced this situation? I knew what is best, yet I ended up doing something which I didn't want to do and regretted later. Please say yes or no, so I get to see that you're able to connect with the subject matter. Hare Krishna. I guess we have a poll for it.
Okay, Prabhuji, I'll launch it.
How many of you have experienced a similar helpless situation in your life? Okay, there is an error with the polling. Fine, we'll continue ahead. So Lord Shri Krishna here tells us who is his eternal enemy. And Krishna says, Hey Arjuna, the name of this eternal enemy is none other than lust. Kama esh krodha esha rajoguna samudbhava mahashano mahapapma vidhi enam hi verinam. Arjuna, it is lust who is accompanied along with his younger brother known as Krodha. Both Kama and Krodha are born of mode of passion and mode of ignorance. When Kama is not fulfilled, Krodha naturally follows. Therefore, Krishna says, Hey Arjuna, Mahashano, all devouring. Mahapapma, the most sinful. Vidhi means to know. Vidhi enam, iha vairinam. Vairinam means very, dushman, enemy. Arjuna, lust is what is called as an eternal enemy. So, I believe all of us could relate to it now, because all of you already said, yes, we have faced this. So now, Krishna, when he spoke about this eternal enemy, Arjuna got a little frightened. And Arjuna said, My dear Lord, can you please tell me something more about this? Because I would like to fight out with this enemy, and because of this enemy, I am not able to find happiness in my life, not able to make the best decisions for me. Please tell me, who is this enemy? Please give me more information about this enemy. And therefore, Lord Krishna goes ahead and speaks in the next verse, which is the 38th verse, where Krishna tells Arjuna, not everyone is covered in an equal proportion by this lust. The lust covers different living entities in different proportions. And Krishna gives an analogy in the 38th verse. Just like a fire covered by smoke, when you fan the fire, the smoke goes away. So this is the least influenced. Second degree of covering is mirror covered by dust. Imagine a mirror covered by dust for a prolonged period of time. It becomes a little difficult to remove the dust. But you take a wet cloth and you scrap it, you'll be able to do it, although it takes a little more effort. So this is a little higher degree of covering of a living entity. And the most difficult covering, which Krishna says, is of embryo covered by the womb, which cannot be easily removed, which refers to the covering of the lust on the sattva guna, rajaguna, and tamaguna level. So a person who is in mode of goodness, they are covered over by lust, can be compared to fire covered by smoke. By a little attempt, they can manage it, they can remove it, reduce the influence of it. Second is the mode of passion, and third is mode of ignorance. Those who are living a life of mode of ignorance is more or less life of an animal, which is based on instincts. So some of you are wondering what is goodness, passion, ignorance. We had introduced the subject in the Gita Wisdom program, and we're going to talk about in details in the 14th, 17th, and 18th chapter. Arjuna looked at Krishna. My dear Lord, please tell me something more about this enemy. Krishna said, yes, why not? I shall tell you more about this enemy. And the 39th verse, Krishna said, Avritam jnanametena jnanino nitya verina. Arjun, know for sure, he is your nitya verina. He is your eternal enemy. Krishna continues, Kamarupena kaunteya dushpurena nalena cha. Hey Arjun, he is your eternal enemy. Kamarupena, the name is Kama, in the form of Kama. Dushpurena nalena cha, and is never satisfied. And it burns like fire. This is the cause of anxiety. You know, as we say, चिता पे तो एक बार बैठता है व्यक्ति, पर चिंता की चिता पे बार बार जलता है. This is what चिंता की चिता. It burns like fire. So somebody may get upset from us, become our enemy for a short while, is not a serious threat. But here Krishna talks about eternal enemy. Just like in Bombay's language or Mumbai Hindi, if somebody becomes upset with you, he may give a supari on your name. मैं पान पराग की सुपारी की बात नहीं कर रहा हूँ. आप लोगों ने बॉलीवुड की पिक्चरें तो देखी होंगी बचपन में. So मैं उस वाली सुपारी की बात कर रहा हूँ. So someone may give a supari on your name and somebody may chase after you, but for how long? Only for this lifetime, isn't it? So this enemy that Krishna is speaking about is more dangerous than that fellow who's chasing you with a gun or a knife for the rest of your life. Krishna says he is your eternal enemy. And then Krishna says, Kama Rupena is in the form of Kama. Dushpurena is never fulfilled. So there are two things. What happens with the lust? Lust, by the way, is not the gross form of lust, which means sexual attraction. It is a subset of it. Kama in general means any kind of material desire is Kama. So when Kama is fulfilled, then a person becomes proud, and then there is another desire. Yes or no? It's not that because you got what you wanted, you stop desiring. Then you have another desire. Now you want to, make further progress. The greed develops. However, when a person's desire is not fulfilled, then he becomes angry. He becomes envious to see others becoming successful. Again, he is dissatisfied. When his desire is fulfilled, he becomes proud and he again desires for more. He is again dissatisfied. In either way, you get or you don't get. This enemy called as Kama Rupena continue to burn a living entity. To give an example, imagine you had been longing to buy a new car for several years and finally your bank loan is sanctioned. Think about your favorite car, whatever you want. And let's say you go to the Honda showroom and you purchase a Honda City. It's 25th December 2020. You're driving back home. How many of you will be super excited? Finally, I got my dream car. Of course, everyone will be super excited. And you're about to reach your home. All the family members are standing on the ground floor to welcome you, give a grand welcome to the brand new car. However, right at the corner of the road, or right at the corner of your house, when you're about to take a turn, There's a huge billboard and it says, "Aa raha hai, Honda City 2021 new model." How many of you will feel a sense of pinch in your heart? I could have waited just for one more week. I could have got a new model of Honda City. Why? Why did I got this model? I could have got the latest model. And that's the whole idea. The desires are never ever fulfilled, and it continues like in this way. Thus, Krishna says, lust can never be satisfied. Then Arjuna thought, can I defeat this enemy? Krishna says, yes. That's a meaningful question. Yes, you can defeat lust. Now, you want to defeat your enemy. What is the first thing you need to know about the enemy if you want to fight with your enemy? What is the first thing we need to know about our enemy if you want to fight with your enemy? Location. That's the whole point. If you don't know where is your enemy residing, whom would you fight with? And therefore, Krishna, very first thing he tells us, where does this enemy resides? This is text number 40. Indriyani mano buddhir asya dhishthanam uchyate ete vimohati esha jnanam avratyate hinam. Krishna says this enemy resides at 3 locations. The senses, the mind, and the intelligence. Sounds familiar? Sounds personal? It's a story of you and I. My senses, my mind, and my intelligence are the sitting places of the lust. That's what Krishna tells us. Through them, lust covers the real knowledge of the living entity and bewilders us. To help you understand this subject matter, whenever I speak of this, I quote a story or an example. So I want all of you to imagine, hypothesize now, okay? Please be attentive. Let's study about this enemy of ours and how we're going to defeat him. So imagine 3 days from today is 15th of August. You all know what is 15th of August. And there is going to be a great celebration at Red Fort of India. Prime Minister of India and all the dignitaries, foreign envoys, and the ambassadors are all going to be assembled there. And imagine you are the DGP, or whatever, you're the Delhi police chief. Imagine, okay, it's all imagination right now. You're the head of the Delhi police, and you have been assigned this responsibility to ensure there is no mischief through this 15th of August program. You have to ensure 100% security of all the dignitaries and all the guests. It's a pressure job, it's a big pressure. Being in a place called Delhi, where there's so much threat from both the sides of the border. You're sitting in your office in the police headquarters. It's almost 8 o'clock in the evening. You just had concluded your meeting with your team, how to ensure 100% security of everyone attending the program. And you're just thinking about it, what to do, what not to do, and you're praying, hopefully things will go fine. Suddenly your landline phone rings. Tring, 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 tring. It catches your attention, and you look at the caller ID, and you identify the code. The STD code is not the STD code, is an ISD code. And the ISD code says the phone is from Pakistan. Pakistan? I am getting a call? Not a good sign. You pick up the phone and suddenly you hear the sound. आ रहे हैं हम 15 अगस्त को उड़ाने के लिए सबको धड़ाक. Line disconnected. How many of you will be a little frightened now? I'm the chief of the Delhi police. My responsibility to guarantee security of all. What is this? I just got a call from Pakistan. There is a direct threat to blast off the whole of the whole program. You become so nervous and you decide to hand over this to the army chief. I cannot handle it. You dial in the army chief says, no problem, so be it, I'll take care of it. Army chief gets into his boardroom and he begins discussion with his confidants. And then they decide, because there is a possibility of a direct threat, we should have a 3-level parameter of security. Level 1, level 2, level 3. And the army chief decides at the level 1, which is the front gate, where all the audience would be, searched. At the level 1, we'll put a metal detector, so any kind of bomb, any kind of explosive metal cannot pass through. At level 2, we'll put a person, a security person, who would frisk every individual entering into the program. At level 3, we'll appoint a major level personalities from the army who will be sitting and witnessing or personally observing every guest coming in, and then on the spot they will decide to give permission or not to this particular guest to enter the program. How many of you think is a brilliant approach to ensure security? Yes or no? 3-level tier of security model. Do you think it's a good model? Yes, no, maybe? क्या चल रहा है भाई? हम कौन सी दुनिया में हैं? आपको कुछ ऐसे प्रश्न आ रहे हैं? Totally confused what's going on in Bhagavad Gita. Is Madan Sundar narrating some Bollywood movie story or what? All right. Okay, Tarun, you're going a little far off. Just stick to the story. Let's not go into the Indian Air Force zone here right now, okay? Let's stay on the ground. I'm not building the story so much on that. Okay, all right. So let's stay on the ground. So you think, okay, great, it's a pretty good idea. Now, 15th August morning, the program is about to begin. A lot of guests have lined up to enter the program. Level 1, level 2, level 3, all the security gates are active and the program is going on. Program is about to begin. And a very suspicious looking character is walking towards the level 1 gate. He has a big beard without a mustache and completely bald. Big body, wearing a dark skin colored clothes and holding a briefcase in his hand. He's walking without having any emotions on his face. And as soon as he comes near to the level 1 security, he immediately blinks his eye at the security personnel standing on the level 1 security gate. And as soon as the security personnel gets an indication from this man, he immediately switches out the metal detector. And this man easily crosses the level 1 security. Unfortunately, your level 1 security have been bypassed, or you can say compromised. Well, you may say, fantastic, no problem. I still have 2 levels of securities. Now this man, suspicious looking man, walks up to the level 2. And now he's frisked, personally checked all over the body. Is he carrying anything suspicious? And now the security personnel tells, sir, what's in your bag? I want you to open your bag right now. And this suspicious looking person opens the bag and there are 3 bombs in it. Security personnel is shocked. तेरे को तो 5 लाने को बोला था, 3 ही लेकर आया. And that person says, Bhaijan, what to do? There is a lot of security patrolling going on India-Pakistan border. I could only manage to get 3 bombs. We have to manage with this only. So this time your level 2 security is also compromised. You may say, what's a big deal? Level 3 to bacha hai na abhi. Now this man walks up to the level 3. Here a major level person is sitting and he is observing every person coming to the gate of level 3. And when this person comes, he is behind a booth and he has a phone to dial up that person with whom he talks directly. And he dials up the person, security person, hand over the phone to this person. And now this person sitting behind the booth says, Kitne bomb laya? And this terrorist says, sir, only 3. No problem. Put these 3 bombs on gate 1, gate 2 and gate 3. Fantastic security, isn't it? All the 3 gates are compromised. And so is our situation in life. All our 3 gates of processing information, that is senses, mind and intelligence, all 3 are compromised. If all 3 are compromised, what hope do we have to win against this enemy? Therefore, Lord Shri Krishna speaks further. And Krishna says, Arjuna, let us draft out a plan for winning against this enemy. And the battle plan is, the first point, identify the hideouts. So we know where the enemy hides now, at senses, at mind and intelligence. This lust has captured all the three different strategic positions in the body, and Lord have identified with these three places. We should better be prepared to fight our battle against this lust. Then battle plan number 2, step 2. Krishna says in verse number 41, Hey Arjuna, regulate your senses. Of the three strategic positions, if you can somehow protect the terrorists from entering into your perimeter at the level 1 itself, then you are far secure. Don't allow the terrorists to come up to the level 2 or level 3. In other words, Krishna says, to deal with the lust at the level of senses is far easier than to deal it at the level of mind or intelligence. We cannot. Just like your eyes are tempted to see something beautiful, you can walk away from that place and save yourself. But once your mind becomes attracted to something, then it is very difficult to deflect our mind. Yes or no? We become absorbed in thinking about what our mind wants. And the third battle plan that Lord Shri Krishna speaks in verse number 43. Arjuna, to win against this battle, to win this battle with a very ferocious enemy, we need to cultivate transcendental knowledge. Jnana, Vigyan, which is the food for the soul. Arjuna, you need to strengthen your level 2 and level 3 security by educating them properly about the importance of national security so they don't compromise themselves with their enemy. In other words, we need to train our mind and intelligence with the transcendental wisdom and knowledge through hearing and reading of scriptures, and by applying the teachings of scriptures in our life. When we do so, then there is a potential and hope for us to win against this war. And this is the battle plan that Lord Shri Krishna gives Arjuna to fight against this enemy called as lust. The foremost of it is to cultivate transcendental knowledge. To put it into a point of application, Srila Prabhupada gave us a very simple formula. If we can apply in our life, then we have a lot of hope to win against this enemy. And that is called as ABCD formula, where A stands for association of saintly persons. As it is said, association is contagious. So if we associate with saintly, like-minded people, then we acquire their taste, we acquire their likings and dislikings. And the likings of saintly people is to serve Krishna, and disliking is to engage in sense gratification, is what we also cultivate by associating. Where B stands for book reading. Book reading means what? Wisdom literatures like Bhagavad Gita, Ramayana, Srimad Bhagavatam, and many other literatures like this. So when we regularly read Bhagavad Gita and wisdom literatures, it strengthens our intelligence. Intelligence function is to make decisions. So when our intelligence is strengthened, then we can make right decision. And then C stands for chanting, which means mantra meditation. The process of mantra meditation purifies our mind. So this is said to be the means of deliverance. Kalera dosha niderajan astihi eka mahan guna kirtana deva krishnasya mukta sangha param rajet. In this age of Kali Yuga, if there is any good thing, that is kirtana deva krishnasya, the chanting of the kirtan of the names of Lord Shri Krishna is the only good thing in the age of Kali. Mukta sangha param rajet can deliver you from your enemy, save you from the clutches of your enemy. And finally, D for diet. And we saw in the photograph the blissful dancing Western bodied devotees. Srila Prabhupada, through this simple ABCD formula, transformed the lives of the people who were hippies, absorbed in all kinds of sinful activities, completely foreign to Vedic culture, yet they had accepted the Vedic cultural lifestyle, and they got transformed by this simple formula of ABCD. D refers to diet, which begins with vegetarian diet and then progresses to Krishna Prasadam, wherein whatever we eat, we offer to Krishna. Krishna is going to speak more about it ahead. And that's the whole idea. When we engages in this kind of 4 activities regularly, every day, then it gives us the strength to deal with this enemy of lust, because we are living in a world of temptations and distractions at every point of time. Therefore, We need to strengthen our immunity to deal with these challenges. So if we all regularly practice this formula, then in a short time we'll defeat this enemy called lust. Otherwise, it is not possible. It does not matter who we were in the past. What matters is what we do in the present, is what going to shape our future. If we take to the simple process spiritual life, we will very soon defeat lust. Remember, lust cheats one of a progressive and a happy life and offers only meager, instantaneous, and temporary gratification in return. However, the simple practice of spiritual life promise happy and fulfilling life. Here, Lord Shri Krishna glorifies transcendental knowledge and recommends Arjuna to cultivate it to steady his intelligence. Therefore, in chapter 4, which we'll be discussing tomorrow, Lord Shri Krishna on his own is going to speak about what is transcendental knowledge and how to gain this transcendental knowledge are the two prominent themes of discussion which we will have tomorrow. With this, we pause here for today. I am glad we are right on time when we are ending this session. Thank you all for joining us for today evening for chapter 3 discussion. Hare Krishna. Back to the host if we have any questions from our audience.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. So, Prabhuji, you taught us today about this beautiful wisdom tree, where the T told us what is the tyag and what is not the tyag. R was about the rungs of yoga ladder. E was how one can become exemplary, and who is the enemy of soul. So you also told us what is the location and everything. With this, I request all of you to you may raise your hands and I'll allow you to unmute yourself to ask questions. Already I have got certain questions from Devesh Shaji. So Devesh Shaji, would you like to ask a question?
It was about, hello, am I audible?
Yes, Devesh, go ahead.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
I'll request to all, we can, if you're asking a question, we can go one question at a time. So at least everyone is given a chance. Just a disclaimer before we start question answer. Then whatever question you want to ask could be the most prominent question. We can take it right now here. So please, Devesh, go ahead now.
Thank you, Prabhuji. So the question is about the 3.35 verse that you had mentioned, people performing duties of other. Where we have two great personalities. One is Parshurama, who was Brahmana but performing the duty of Kshatriya. And
yes.
the other great personality is Vishwamitra, who was Kshatriya but did the duties of Brahmana. I mean, these two are very high-level people. Nothing to debate there. But in fallen people like us, where we have this tendency of "Arey wo acha laga, wo kar liya." Aaj, the problem of being born in certain kind of value system, but we get attracted to some different kind of a value system, and na idhar ka na udhar ka, ghar ka na ghat ka kind of situation. So coming to the question, this was the background. Coming to the question, which is, how do we decide which thing is to be taken up? Because externally everything appears good.
Deveshi, I know you for last few years now, and if I have to give you one line answer, it's little too late to figure out now. All right. So the stage to figure out what I'm supposed to do, what is the best occupation for me, according to my guna and karma, actually that involves to go through a Gurukul style of training for considerable amount of time, where we get an opportunity to understand what our predisposition, and accordingly the Guru helps us to get training in that. Now in today time, place, situation, and particularly for your age, where you are right now, for you to begin this journey is almost close to impossible. To figure out what is best for you is too late. What you can do, what Prabhupada would say, make the best use of bad bargain. At least understand the life in this world is always going to be troublesome. Either you act according to your predispositions or not. What is for sure one thing is eternal is Atma and Bhagavan and the relationship between them. So whatever time you have now, whatever time of life we all have remaining now, how we can dovetail this point of time in life, engaging ourselves in devotional service, I guess should be the foremost question. If somebody is at a young age, maybe around say let's say teenager, then still the teenager can be trained to help, trained or given guidance to identify what his liking dislikings are and can be encouraged. And however, to encourage somebody, we still need a social structure. We don't have a social structure. The varnashram does not exist. Varnashram only exists in concept, but not in actuality and in a practical way. So you are a software engineer, whatever it is, try to plan. I guess at this stage, what you can work on is creating your retirement plan. Start working in the reverse direction. Generally, I live my life in the reverse order. And why do I do so? Because I was in the field of research. So I used to had to write a lot of reverse engineering codes to crack up the codes of malwares and whatnot. So I developed this habit to, in my own life, also live in a reverse direction, which means, let's say you retire at the age of 60. How many years do I have living now? If I have to retire at the age of 60, what should I be doing now to be able to retire at the age of 60 so that I can dedicated dedicate rest of my life in the service of the Lord? I guess that would be the best way to think for ourselves already in middle age or above middle age, is to create your exit plan, is to plan out your exit plan rather than working out how can I figure out what is my guna and karma, what is my occupation. We are kind of stuck into it now. Is making some sense?
Yes, Prabhu. In a very bad manner, it is making sense.
As I said, make a best use of bad bargain. Reality is not always palatable.
Sure.
And I can't go here and do a sugar coating to your situation, give you some false hopes. Yes, Devesh, you go through this kind of a 7-day meditation program in the hills of Mount Abu. And when you will come on the 8th day, you'll be a transformed personality, knowing that actually you're never meant to be a Vaishya, you're meant to be a Kshatriya. Take a sword, go to the India-Pakistan border and do a Hamla. That doesn't happen like that. It's a process. So work on your exit plan so you can plan out your rest of your life in a Krishna conscious way. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Next,
Can't hear. Hare Krishna.
Hi.
Geeta ji, like Hare Krishna, Geeta ji, would you like to ask your question?
Hare Krishna.
Yes.
Is my name being called, Mataji?
Yes.
Did you call
You have
Gita?
asked for. Yes, Geeta ji, you have asked a question, right?
Mataji, my question is, Prabhuji discussed about this in shlok number 3.35, importance for you to perform your prescribed duties and not others. Why? So could you just explain it again? You said to gain steadiness and social organization is there, and then natural pushing. So how these three are related to this?
To perform one's duty, which means not for the purpose of earning money. In today's time, we choose our profession, whichever gives us more wealth. That was not the idea of performing duty according to Vedic culture. The idea of performing duty according to Vedic culture was according to your disposition, your likings, your inclinations. Accordingly, the individual would get trained, and then, for an instance, if you like to do what you do, you will naturally be self-inspired. Yes or no? And
Yes.
when you're naturally self-inspired, and when you have a society of people who are self-inspired, it creates a social harmony. Yes or no?
Yes.
and it creates stability in an individual's life and of life of the dependents. Yes or no?
Yes.
Those are the 3 points.
Okay. Okay.
Because you are happy doing what you're doing, you're not complaining about, you're not worried about the wealth or the money is not the priority for you. What is priority is the job itself is nourishing to you. Just like brahmanas. Now brahmanas not of this age, so let's not confuse with that. The brahmanas of the previous age, they would live as a mendicant, but they were the heads of the society. They were the lawyers, they were the doctors, they were the advisors, they were the family counselors. Any decision making, Brahmanas would be involved. Yet, for any act of their service, they would never demand money because they never did for money. That was never the need for them. They lived in charity because their happiness in life was from performing tapasya, for performing sacrifice, and by sharing the wisdom of scriptures with others. That's the point. And this brings us social harmony, stability, and as what we discussed in that verse. Clear?
Fine. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, next question had come from Saket. Saket, would you please online? So he's asking that can teenagers decide their prescribed duties and can they define their occupation accordingly?
Not
As
if
per
you're
this
part, not if you're part of the current education system, because you don't have any option. The ability to understand one's disposition requires altogether different set of training. It requires a Gurukul setup. It requires for a child to be living under the shelter of a guru, where guru engages that child in all kinds of activities and that observes him technically for a period of at least 1 year. And then the guru understands what's the disposition of that child and then creates further facility for him to excel in that. To be able to do so, guru also needs to be qualified and well trained in this kind of an education. So it's not so easy to establish today. ISKCON at large is trying to recreate the Varnashram system. For that purpose, we have established several farm communities. They're in the nascent stages, but maybe not for you, Saket. I don't know how old are you because I can't see you. If you are a teenager, oh, Saket, you look like a young man only. Maybe if not teenager, maybe 20s. Maybe your second generation may have something for this. Okay, it's gonna take time, not right now. But yes, where are you from, Saket?
I'm from Palghar, near Mumbai.
Oh, Palghar, right? Where we have Vada community, right? I heard of that. Palghar. Okay, Palghar. Sounds familiar. Fine. Yeah, I mean, it's still possible to a lot of extent. In case, I don't know, is this your first time program connected with Bhagavad Gita?
No, I attended some part of the Gita Wisdom course, and this is
No,
why.
is this your first time with ISKCON or you're connected with ISKCON?
Yeah, I'm not connected with ISKCON. It was my first time after the during the pandemic. I knew about Evolve, and then I joined this course.
Okay. Mother Dipasha, you can give him my number. Saket, you can call me up. We'll talk
Okay.
about the subject matter more in detail. So else you can have my Zoom ID. We can talk further on this. It's a subject matter of more personal involvement and guidance where we need to know liking and disliking. Of course, I'm not taking into the role of telling you what your predispositions are, but just to help you understand, we give you a little borderline approach where you can take your life further. See, to be able to do so, we require at least certain amount of spiritual culture around us. We require certain amount of spiritual practice, a life in goodness. Ultimately, decision is made by an individual.
Yeah.
So for that, we need to have an ability. For that, we need to be in goodness because a person in mode of passion can never make decision because always going shifting yes, no. And mode of ignorance never have any ability to make decisions because he acts on instincts. Only a person in goodness can make decision. So first of all, what we need is to cultivate goodness in our own life. So what is goodness and all that discussion will happen in 14th, 17th, 18th chapter. But we can always connect offline to discuss more on that. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, next question was from Raman Groverji. Raman Groverji, are you online? And Raman Groverji has asked. Yes, Prabhuji, please.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hari Hari.
Prabhuji, my question is, can we advance or progress in our spiritual journey without a spiritual master or guru?
Unless you are a brother or sister of Mirabai, I don't see any hope.
So you mean to say that it is next to impossible?
Well, I don't say so. Krishna says so. We're going to discuss about it tomorrow. Who am I to say? I'm just a tiny creature. Lord Shri Krishna himself says so.
No, Prabhuji, we go by your words actually.
So, okay. I mean, it will help you as long as my words are aligned with Lord Shri Krishna's word. So at least we'll see what Lord Shri Krishna says on this tomorrow. Krishna says, no, we need a guru. We definitely need a guidance. You know, I mean, it's so interesting. Just to run in a race, you need a trainer, isn't it?
Right, Prabhuji.
अरे जिसने चड्डी पहना भी नहीं सीखा वो भी भाग सकता है उसमें भागने के लिए trainer की क्या जरूरत है but you need a trainer, isn't it? Just to run you need a trainer, and you're talking about running in your life. How is it possible without the help of a trainer?
Right, Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Inevitable. It's inevitable.
It's inevitable. Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Very good.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, now I can see two hands, one from Science Ashwath and another from Akriti. So,
Yes, Sai.
yes, what is your question, Sai Ashwath?
Prabhuji, my question is, what happens exactly after death?
What happens? Krishna says in second chapter, verse number 27, Sai Shashwat continues his journey in this world and he takes on to another body, either with 4 hands or with 4 legs, depending on what Sai Shashwat would do in this life. You understood? 4 hands means he goes back to Vaikuntha, becomes the associate of Lord Vishnu, 4-handed associates, or else may go to the animal kingdom with 4 legs, which is a choice for all of us. So what Sai does, I mean, I'll tell you, when I look at Sai, I immediately remember 2 wonderful examples that come in Srimad Bhagavatam. Narada the boy, I wonder must be of the same age as Sai, 5-year-old boy, and Prahlad, and of course Dhruva, not 2-3 cases actually. So good Sai. I guess Mother Dipasha, we can just see he should get that book. There are small books written from Srila Prabhupada's lectures, Prahlad and Narada Muni. At least there is a storybook on Prahlad based on Prabhupada's writing. As you know, his parents, they can be encouraged to get that book for Sai Saswat. He could relate with the characters easily of the same age. Wonderful question, Sai, all right?
Ji, Prabhuji. Yeah, Akriti, you may go ahead with your question.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. I had more of a dilemma than a question, and it pertains to like the more we read the scriptures, the more we get into a spot where in which every other activity that we kind of pursue, you feel less ambitious, you feel less inclined to pursue them religiously, because at some level you feel that at the end of the day, whatever I'm doing won't help me in the longer run, and it's only that will get me places. So,
Yeah, just before this class, I was speaking to a group of devotees, and I was saying Krishna consciousness is so interesting. वो सारी आशाओं पे पानी फेर देता है. I was just telling them when I went to America for the first time, I was having such high aspirations. Although I got admission in Ohio State University, which is top 10 universities in America, I was still not content. I was like, no, this is not good. I want to go in top 3 universities. If I couldn't get admission, I'll do PhD then. What I knew that after 6 months, I would be hating the idea of PhD. Anyways, so different people undergo different experiences about it. I don't want to discourage any of the aspirant here. They may think, oh, Baba, this is the wrong forum. Bhagavad Gita's wisdom going to destroy my aspiration. No, that's not the idea. Different individuals have different level of realizations after studying Bhagavad Gita. But Akriti's question is a wonderful question where actually this is a sign of a maturity on the path of yoga. Karma yoga, Jnana yoga, Ashtanga, Bhakti yoga, we spoke about, right? Karma kanda, Purushartha, Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. Eventually, we realize in our life There is no end to desires, there is no end to aspirations. You gain one aspiration, then there's another set of aspirations already waiting in queue. For how long? For how long shall I continue like this? And that is the stage where a person begins to inquire, Atatha Brahma Jikyasa. Who am I after all? Am I supposed to continue to chase after these dreams? And that is said to be the beginning of spiritual life. And ultimately, if the spiritual life goal is to go back to Godhead, to go back to Goloka Vrindavana Vaikuntha, we have to finish our business of desires in this world, which is a natural byproduct of a progressive spiritualist. When you're progressing, you tend to become more content, you tend to become more happy with what you have. Therefore, Prabhupada said, simple living, high thinking, isn't it? Just because we are in 2020, we tweaked a little bit of Prabhupada's word and we started calling evolve, sublime living and high thinking. Because the kind of audience I deal with, they don't like the word simple itself. There's a simple, what are you talking, man? Simple. There's no simplicity. We want complexity. So I said, hell with simple or complexity, let's make sublime. So, anyways, the audience type, you have to change your approach. So that's the baseline. So for a progressive spiritualist, but natural, this is what's going to happen. That's the point here. Okay?
Thank you,
Hare
Prabhuji.
Krishna.
Prabhuji, in between the session, Srinath ji had asked one question that if we look at our armed forces and as they are guarding the nation and the people, so are they in the Karma Kanda phase, Sakam Karma, Nishkam Karma, or they are directly into the Bhakti Yoga phase? Because they are
As I said, the word yoga can only be used when it in connection with the Lord. The government of India is not the God. So yoga does not exist. That's it.
Ji Prabhuji. And the another question was Swachha ji was asking that I don't know, he or she is very eager to know the concept of Yagna system. So if they can get a gist of Yagna system separately.
So the idea of yajna system is what the foundation of karma kanda. Because I wanted to take you on this aspect of yoga letters, so I skipped that whole aspect of yajna system. So what is this whole yajna system where Krishna says that I have created a system in this world for a happy living for a happy living of all the beings, wherein the devatas, who are representatives and responsible for various resources in organization of the universe, they fulfill the desires of the people of this world, and in return the people of this world perform yajna to satisfy and please the devatas. So Krishna says, I have created a system of a mutual dependency. So people understand that everyone ultimately is dependent, nobody is independent. So Lord has created a culture of gratitude, wherein a person understands that at all times we are dependent, just like a farmer. He may be fortunate enough to get the most fertile land, but can he do with the most? Can he be happy with just with the fertile land if he doesn't have enough water? He needs water also. Now, ultimately, water comes from the rain clouds. Whatever arrangement the government may might to make it, but the government will not be able to convert all the ocean water into the usable water for the inlands, isn't it? Ultimately, government also depends on the rainwater. They may harvest rainwater somewhere else and put pipe and bring it to you. Ultimately, it's the rainwater. So that's the point, the yajna system, and that is what the karma kanda system is, where we don't act independently thinking there is no higher powers, I can do whatever I want. And that's what Vedic Shastra teaches us, that act in a way where you have your regulated sense gratification, which means you just don't try to enjoy all by yourself, but you share the result by performing yajna for the well-being or for the happiness of devatas. So those are the 4-5 verses where Krishna explains clearly about without yajna. The gist is without yajna there is no happiness. Which means if you're not even practicing karma kanda, if you're outside of this whole scope of discussion of yoga ladder and karma kanda, person can never be happy. For a person to be happy, he has or she has to perform yajna. It's mandatory. That is a system designed. That's the point in just about yajna system. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. I believe Sakit, are you still having any question because your hands are up?
I see a question from Techno Spark.
How to
Anyways, it'll be nice if you who are asking question can speak directly. At least switch on the camera when your question is ready. Yes, Saket.
Yeah. So I recently got introduced to the spiritual thing through ISKCON's course, like this Bhagavad Gita course. So I wanted to read some books, like especially Mahabharata and the Valmiki Ramayana and Bhagavad Puran. So I found that found a English translation of the Mahabharata by Vivek Debroy. Is that a credible source to read from?
I would suggest Krishna Dharma.
Okay, Krishna Dharma. Okay.
Yes,
And
Krishna Dharma.
and what about Bhagavad Puran?
Bhagavad Puran, I mean, again, Bhagavad Puran refers to Srimad Bhagavatam, what we call Bhagavad Puran. So I don't know what is available outside. Maybe there may be a Gita Press edition. What you would have Gita Press edition, Bhagavad Puran has 18,000 verses. So you cannot understand that unless you have a commentary to it. So I believe Gita Press have an edition only with the translations of it. That will not make much sense. You'll not be able to relate to the subject matter. However, if you want to study Mahabharata or Ramayana, you can go to our YouTube channel. I just recently did a whole series of Mahabharata for the kids as well as for the adults. For the adults, I had done the controversies and the crisis from Mahabharata, and I had discussed the first 5 books of Mahabharata. We couldn't continue further because we started Gita program. And for kids, I completed all the parvas, all the 18 parvas of Mahabharata. So those all episodes are uploaded up with presentations, slides, and everything, which you can refer, which will give you, I guess, as much as information or maybe more information than what you may find in reading. All right, Kate?
Yeah, thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, how to control the temptation of food?
Okay, I see now. How do you control temptation? Temptation is none other than what we call as lust. So that is discussed more in the second chapter. Dhyayato Vishyan Pumsa Sangaste Supajayate Sangas Sanjayate Kama Kamat Krodha Vijayate Krodhat Bhavati Sammohas Sammoha Smriti Vibramha Smriti Brahmasad Buddhinashu Buddhinashat Pranashyati. So temptations, you cannot. Today, the world is actually filled with a lot of distractions and temptations. If you want to deal with it, we need to build our inner muscles or internal strength. That inner muscles or internal strength gets cultivated by the practice of spiritual life. And all that, the foremost thing that we all need to do from today itself, if that's what you want to deal with, which I believe would be a subject matter for all of us, is to take to the process of chanting of the holy names. When you start chanting the holy names of the Lord, it will give you strength to follow the 4 regulative principles. When you get the strength to follow 4 regulative principles, means no meat eating, no intoxication, no gambling, no illicit relationships, then you'll get the strength because your strength is building up now. Every time you say no, your determination steps up. So your strength is building up, and then you will get more strength to deal with the temptations. However, as far as my experience of the world goes, it is very difficult to practice or follow these by living by ourselves. We need association. We need to be in a forum of people where we can live and practice this particular culture. Then it becomes very easy. You don't have to worry about this when you're living in association of like-minded people. Therefore, for the young men, we have created, kind of youth centers where they all come and stay together. And ISKCON have been doing this for many years now. So wherever you are, I'm pretty sure there would be some place. You can ping me. If you want, I can connect you with the local center. That is what gonna help you. Being by yourself is very difficult because when we are by ourselves, we are always with the source of distraction, that is internet. And one slip on internet opens the gateway for the world of distractions and temptations, and then there's no coming back. I believe all of us have seen the dangers of it.
Thank you, Rohit. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji. So, Prabhuji, thanks a lot for today's session. Gita Mataji, do you have any question? I can see your hand.
Yeah, Mataji, while filling up this questionnaire of chapter 1 today, I faced a problem like for the incorrect answers. The only option I found was the skip. There was a skip question and then check. So when you press on check, if the answer is correct, then there are two options. Just and then there are the correct answer it shows, and then there is next. But the wrong answer, if you have given a wrong answer, the correct answer is not shown. So how do you get to the correct answer?
So the correct answer is given to you at the end of the quiz. When you finish the quiz, when you click on the finish quiz, then it shows you all the questions and answers. We intentionally did it not to increase the workload and distract the participant right in the middle. So you continue going through, you continue with your quiz. At the end, you will get to know there will be an option called as questions. When you click on it, it will give you the summary of what you have done, and there you'll get highlighted correct answer and the wrong answer. I believe wrong answer get highlighted with red border, and the correct answer get highlighted with green.
That is there, Prabhuji. There is one with the blue ink also, which shows current. Like if you can go back to the same question, if you have skipped any question, you can again go back to that question. But somehow I'll do it again. This was my first time, and I'm not a very computer savvy person, so I was having some problems. So
Yeah,
I'll try it again.
yeah, the system that we have employed is a little complex system. It involves training
Yes.
both for the trainers means educators, as well as for the
It's not
students.
a very straightforward questionnaire pattern which you have.
Yeah, the reason is because it actually allows you access, gives us a lot of features in a long run. Once you get used to it, after that it'll be a very comfortable journey. And then for a person who's going to stay connected and progressive through different educational program, they'll find a lot of help from this Learn Dash. This is a system which
So
are
is
used by all the universities who provide online education.
okay,
So
Prabhuji.
this is, yeah, so you'll get
But
used
is
to
there
it.
anyone else? Is there anyone who can help us while answering the question if you get stuck up somewhere?
Whenever
With
you
the
get stuck up,
process.
yeah, whenever you get stuck up, if you cannot move forward, is what I would say you are stuck up. If you can move forward, keep going forward until the end of it. At the end, you'll find the answers for what you got stuck up. Even if not, then you can always write back to the admins of the WhatsApp group. They'll revert back to you immediately. All right.
Okay, thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Prabhuji, for giving this wonderful discourse on chapter 4 of our Bhagavad Gita. And we thank all participants also for their patience listening and wonderful question and answer session.
Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so